In the previous video of modifying the Suzuki Jimny, we fitted an insane bonnet-mounted light bar, and we gave the car the gift of some glorious disco lights.
Alright ladies and gents, welcome back to the YouTube, and today guys we have yet again another video on Gareth the Suzuki Jimny. Now we are continuing the progress on the Shitbox series with this car. So for those of you who don't know, the Shitbox series is basically where I let you lot choose the mods for the cars that I have, and obviously this is season 3 and we're doing a Suzuki Jimny. Now the previous TikTok that I posted on this car, you guys picked this for the next modification, a big fat wang, which initially I was like, it doesn't really work with a 4x4, but on second thoughts, is this a 4x4 or is it actually a race car? So that's kind of my mentality. We're gonna get some downforce and we're gonna make Gareth look absolutely beautiful. Now, not only do we have that modification in this video, but we are also going to be doing a clutch change and also another modification for the Shitbox series. Stay with me here. We are going to post a TikTok on the spoiler, and then the top comment on that, I'll check it, do it, and then post it in this video. I don't know it yet. Right. Hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, we're doing that in this video, guys. So let's get into it. So, guys, we have some elite equipment here. We've got some brackets, some winglets, and a big wang. This is, without a shadow of a doubt, going to look sensational. But the bad news is I am going to have to drill holes into the roof of my Suzuki Jimny, which is definitely going to dip its market value a little bit, but it's going to look unreal. Still trying to convince myself of that, but it's going to look unreal, and 17,000 of you wanted this, so let's get into it.
Now, unfortunately, this wasn't a £10,000 carbon fibre wing. This was a cheap wing from Amazon, so it needed assembling before I could get it on the car. Now, I had to actually make the holes bigger with this drill because the holes were too small for the bolts that it came with, believe it or not. But then after I did that, I could then get on the brackets. So the next task was to figure out where to drill the holes. Now to do this, I got this little yellow paint marker and I kind of painted around where the bolts would come out of the brackets. And this allowed us to kind of imprint on the roof a little mark of where we wanted the holes to be with the wing when we lined it up. And then we could get on with drilling the holes themselves. So I started off by taking the smallest drill bit I could find and using it to kind of drill a hole in the center of these yellow splodges that I had just made with my paint marker. And this wasn't to get the bolt in, but it was to help us guide these self-tappers in for the wing. So once I'd got the self-tapper in, I could then take it out and then start mounting the wing. And then the final touch was adding these winglets on the side of our glorious wing, and then we were finished. So yeah, let me know what you think about this modification in the comments. I have a feeling every single one of you is going to completely despise me for this, because this build was actually going quite nicely until the But we now have downforce. Gareth is now a #track car. It has more downforce than an F1 car, but it does look horrendous. We do have one more modification to fit to this car to get to episode 10 of the Shitbox series. So we're going to skip to a couple of days time when we know that modification, and then we're going to fit it. So I will see you then.
1 week later.
So it has been around a week since we fitted this monstrosity of a spoiler, and since then we have posted this TikTok, and on that TikTok, this was the top comment with 33,000 likes, and it wanted
tints on the windows. So that is what we're doing today. Let's get into it.
So to make sure that Gareth was looking his absolute best and like a complete gangster car, I outsourced the help of this absolute legend at Tintsmart, who came and did all of the work on the tints. And as you're going to see in a minute, Gareth now has transformed from a fishbowl to a car that would be comfortable in the Mafia. As you can see, Gareth now looks phenomenal. These tints were a much needed upgrade. It now looks a lot meaner. With that said, let's get on to the clutch.
So we've done the tints and we have done the wing. Gareth is now looking like a certified gangster car. Also, he's going to have a lot more downforce now, and as I'm sure you're all aware, that is much needed for a Suzuki Jimny. But now we're going to move on to a bigger job in doing the clutch, because we have got a load of clutch lip on this car. So let's get into it. So Gareth is now up on the ramp. We are now going to start the clutch job. But before, I want to show you what we have in stock for Gareth. We have this Transmech clutch. Now, for the mechanics out there, they're probably face palming, because the Transmech clutch is, well, notorious to be one of the cheapest and worst brands, but I actually couldn't find another one which wasn't ridiculously expensive, so we're fitting this one. I would say let's get into it, but before... Yes! Come on! Oh, oi. You lose, mate. Yeah. That's called a bullseye. Right, okay, enough faffing around. Let's get this clutch sorted. So here we have our gearbox, of course. Now, I have changed the clutch before, but it was on Boris and I put the clutch in the wrong way round. So hopefully we can get it sorted properly this time. And also, I did that clutch when the engine was outside of the car. So I think this is going to be considerably more challenging. We also don't have a gearbox jack or stand or whatever you want to call it, so this is going to be challenging, but yeah, let's do it.
So the most logical place to start for my brain was taking off the prop shaft. There was 4 14mm bolts that I had to undo with my socket and ratchet, and then the prop shaft would literally just slide out of the gearbox.
Oh, hello darling. That is off.
So it was at this very early stage that I realised that Gareth needed to come down again in order to remove the gear selector. Now, the reason why you're supposed to remove this is because the gearbox has to be pulled back in order to get the clutch in, and it wouldn't have moved with the gear selector still in. So we had to remove it, and it was just a few 10mm bolts and some screws to take it out.
Right, interesting. Seems that... Oh! Okay, that's come out. That is grim. Alright, well, we can put that somewhere safe. So guys, we have now undone this bolt, which kind of holds in that rear section of the gearbox. We now have to move on to the bell housing bolts, which sit around the edge of the gearbox, of course. But first, we have to kind of loosen and undo that clutch cable. I'm not sure if you can see it, but there's a cable there which is being held together by that little fork, and we need to loosen it and take it out. So let's do that first.
So I just used a pair of mole grips in order to take out the clutch cable from its seating on that fork, and then we could move on to the bell housing bolts.
That's it, out. I've got rotational problems. Mate, that is a new technique right there. Right guys, interesting fact. So this is the clutch cable and it is responsible for obviously engaging and disengaging the clutch. So you can see that kind of movement there. That's what happens when you put the foot down on the clutch. So that's out. We need to now go around the rest of the bell housing. There are a few bolts on the top that we need to get the car lowered down to access and then undo all of that. And then hopefully, I'm backing myself to hold the gearbox and kind of nudge it back so that we can then get in there and get the new clutch and pressure plate in. So yeah, let's have a go. Persistence is key. Come on, don't get angry with the bolt. Oh, why is it not coming out, bro? I've been spinning this thing for 10 years. Ah, my arm.
So now all of the bolts are out, I could move on to trying to wiggle the gearbox free.
3, 2, 1.
Oh! He needs some milk.
1. That's coming. Right, guys, so after a load of wiggling and undoing certain things, we have finally got the bell housing free from the flywheel. So there's the flywheel. We have our clutch pressure plate up there, and behind the pressure plate we have our clutch. So all we have to do is remove the pressure plate, remove the clutch, and put in the new ones. It's bloody simple. So let's get into it. Okay, and there we have the pressure plate and the clutch. No way, bro. Look at this clutch. This bit is supposed to be really grippy, and that's how the clutch like bites down. So this is the new one, this is the old one. This material is really grippy and it's also a lot thicker. Look at the old one versus the new one. The thickness difference there, I'm not sure if you can see, but this one is so much thinner. Obviously it's had 90,000 miles of usage with no changing. So let's get this in. So we have the clutch release bearing as well to take out before we put in the new clutch and pressure plate. It's basically kind of in there in the bell housing. Let's see if I can just pull it out with my hands. Right, guys, so now we have to put the clutch in. We have just put in the new clutch release bearing. That's very simple. We couldn't show you. It's basically just slides into these like metal prongs. But now we need to align the clutch. So obviously here we have our pressure plate and here we have our grip plate. This one is the flywheel side. So that one's gonna be sat like that against the flywheel. And then you turn this over and you get your clutch alignment tool, which is just one of these. And then you tighten up this bottom one and tighten up this top one. And then you will have an aligned clutch. It's very simple. And then you just put this back in, put the bolts on, Bob's your uncle, you're sorted. So let's get into it.
So because the gap between the gearbox and the flywheel was so small, I couldn't actually fit the clutch with the alignment tool through that little gap. So I had to get the clutch in first and then align it inside the bell housing, if that makes sense. And then I could move on to tightening the bolts around the pressure plate. After the pressure plate bolts were tightened up, I had to recruit every single muscle fibre in my body to get this gearbox back on. Guys, I cannot begin to explain to you how heavy this thing was.
What's that left one saying? Right one's out. Oh, kind of rest it like that.
Now that the gearbox was back on its studs, I could then get the bolts back in and secure it in place. After that, I could put back in the starter motor and remount the clutch cable. Which led me on to placing the clutch cable back on its seating, tightening up the clutch cable itself, and also putting the cover back on. After that, the final job underneath the car was to refit the prop shaft.
So we've now done everything, and the last thing we need to do is to get in the selector. So let's get into it. It's very simple. Right, ladies and gents, this is the moment of truth. Before we start this car and try to pull it off, I just want to say, we've never done a clutch before. The only thing I've ever done with a clutch is I put Boris's clutch in when the engine was out, and I had my mechanic friend who was helping me, making sure I did it all correctly. But this time it's just been me and Joe, two clueless amateurs, and we've only been watching YouTube videos. So if we've done this, all right, I know it's a little job to some people, but I'm going to be bloody proud, and I'm going to be also heartbroken if it doesn't work. So yeah, I'm going to start up Gareth now, and let's see if he pulls forward and see if this clutch works. Whew, fingers crossed. Come on, baby. Handbrake down. No clutch slip as well. Bro, we've actually done it. Oi. Bro, we've actually done it. It worked! Come on, baby! Oi. Bro, it actually fucking... Oi, that is a solid shift, man. Oh my God, man. That is such a relief. Bro, it works. The clutch works. We've done everything correctly.
Oh my God.
There wasn't a single fuck up that whole time. We did it all correct.
That's what I was saying.
I thought that. Oh, man. Come on.
It feel good?
It feels fucking brilliant, mate. There's no slip at all. It literally bites. It's excellent. So guys, Gareth is in his final form. We fitted the spoiler today, and we fitted the tints today, and we have also laboured away at that clutch, and we have got it installed, and it is working perfectly to my disbelief. It is feeling amazing. The clutch feels great. There's no slip. It bites perfectly. It's just mwah. Beautiful. Now guys, I'm going to leave the video there. So if you did enjoy, make sure to smash that like button and also click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and make sure to let me know in the comments what you think of the new modifications and also what you thought of that clutch install. And with that said, I will catch you guys in the next one.